bottom line.
You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode number 25 to be exact of season 2.
Doesn't it feel weird? Doesn't it feel like we just did this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's only been a couple days, but you know, we can never start off with a full crew though, because Brett's always out there chasing black cats around the neighborhood.
burning one last coffin nail.
Here Marty jumps right on because he's dying to see Brett every week, and every week we gotta shoot the crap for like the first 5 minutes.
Yep, time filler, because Brett's always off doing whatever Brett does. So,
hey Lauren, what's up?
Yeah, it does feel weird. We had the 2 Saturday shows, and now we're back on a Wednesday. It kind of feels like, well, this feels normal to me. The Saturday ones kind of threw me off.
I was going by the 25th episode.
Isn't that hard to believe?
Yeah.
25 episodes deep in season 2 already.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys haven't said, Chad, thanks, but no
listen,
thanks.
Well,
I am just as shocked as you. The problem is when we interviewed people, you were the 24th on the list. The list didn't go any deeper.
I remember. You're breaking that down.
We had to go live. We had to go live like by the next night. I mean,
it's like, all right, Chad, you're hired. By the way, we're on tomorrow night.
Normally, when we see Nebraska Cornhusker, you'd have been out right off the bat.
Yeah, that could have been a deal breaker if you'd have been honest in your interview.
Yeah, whatever.
Speaking of the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Big Ten, we just as well start off with a little tidbit that relates to the Big Ten. The Iowa Hawkeyes are in desperate need of a quarterback. Has landed the number 4 overall quarterback in the transfer portal, number 19 overall, Mr. Mark Gronowski, who's won 2 national championships with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
Wow.
Yeah, that's impressive. How can
He has
Iowa
thrown for over 10,000 yards.
So you're guaranteeing an Iowa national championship this year.
What?
Hawks to the playoffs.
You're guaranteeing an Iowa national championship next year?
Yeah, you put them with our defense. Look out, baby.
That's what I thought. There you go. There's your Hawkeye fan.
Let me give you just
the Big Ten.
Chad. Let me give you a quick synopsis about how it works with Ed.
Okay.
You may know this already.
30 years, I'm not sure, but later.
Yeah, when Cade McNamara came from Michigan, Ed's excitement was very similar to the excitement you're seeing today. And my question is, Ed, how did that work out? Yeah, that's what I thought.
He had a few tough luck injuries that, threw his game off a little bit. Anyway, as you can imagine, as we talk about the Detroit Lion fan base, we got Lauren online already wanting to throw crap my way. If you guys know me at all, like Eric and Chad do, I went through 2 days of mass depression.
Yes, he did.
Followed by a day of just kind of existing.
It was so bad, I was trying to pump him up. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, you were.
I was.
I'm sitting there on the ledge of, all it took is one wrong word for me to just go ahead and end it. And you got Chad sitting there just poking me in the ribs, I'm
telling you, what did I say? I was being sincere. Hey, man, what are you all down about? What a great season. Own it. Just walk into the room, kick the door open like you're the big dick walking into the room, just like you have been all year. Play your horn. Put your portrait up of Caesar Sam.
Okay, I'll show you.
Just do it.
I'll show you how. I'll show Mike. He always already wants to talk a bunch of crap about the Rams.
I was genuinely concerned about him. I was calling and checking on him. You fellas were just jabbing. Just
go ahead and put this up because that's the game of the week everybody wants to see.
I try and be positive and pump him up, and I get crushed.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep my uncle from swan diving off of the back deck of his house.
Yeah, it makes a great wife.
Yeah. I mean,
this game is so hot that they're going to have to move the game to Vegas or to Arizona because there's so much smoke in the air. They're worried about the quality of the air for this game.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
That's a legit thing, huh?
That is legit.
Huh. So, I didn't realize that.
I forgot about that. They've got some big fires going on out there right now.
So
like out in the Palisades of California.
They're looking at it and they're saying, you know what?
And LA too.
Yeah.
They're looking at it, you know what? The Rams don't really deserve a home game anyway because they barely finished over 500. So
they won't have 20,000 of their own fans there.
That they move it to a neutral site than to give the Rams a home game anyway.
Horn on horn action. Is that what we call that?
I know I'm going to leave. I'm just going to leave that little statement there, Ed, because I know we're going to talk about this game later.
Yeah, and you're going to see who I pick?
Well, no, but I'm going to remind you of something that we talked about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And we'll see what your response is now. Maybe Chad's pep talk about walk in strutting, baby, you're 14. I mean, maybe that's helped you, and I hope it's helped you get in your feelings and all the feels and the hugs. I'm going to remind you of what we talked about 4 or 5 weeks ago on the show. But I'll say that.
Hey, look, it's so tough to try to pump him up when my dynasty as an Alabama fan is over, and I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and we won 5 games, and I'm upset we won the 5th game because it's going to hurt our draft stock. And he's whining about a 14-3 season, and I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to pump him up.
Right.
When all else fails, this is still a fantastic number.
It's a great jersey, Ed.
How it is. Ed, wait. exactly how many times have you actually exercised that number in your lifetime? This I got to know.
Whoa, let's move
If
on.
it gets Jared Allen in the Hall of Fame, then I've done my job.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
That's right.
What would be poetic justice if Jared Allen went into the Hall of Fame as a Bear?
Oh,
That would be a real shot in the face, wouldn't it?
Please, you talk about the sunset of a career when he was with the Bears. Holy
Was he
crap.
there?
Or it could go in as a Chief.
Okay, we got to get this thing. We got to get this thing going. We got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot of big games, a lot of stuff coming up.
Hey,
So,
Brett,
Brett-
evidently this is the portion of the show where we rub our hands together. Rub your hands together, Brett. Okay.
Yeah, do it.
Okay,
There we go. All right.
Okay, Brett.
We got a lot.
As we talk about the big, exciting UFL season coming, let me put this up because I'm sure it's part of what you're going to talk about. I'm going to put up the old date to remember. So you go ahead, give us a UFL update.
Man, whoever made that, that's some professional looking material right there. I'm just saying.
That's nice.
All right. Thanks to, Wade, Coach Wade from the San Antonio Brahmas. He released when the players are going to be arriving in camp, which is, I believe, the 27th, coaches report on the 24th. You've got the remaining schedule below when you have scrimmages. And, of course, the kickoff is Friday, March 28th, the St. Louis Battlehawks versus the Houston Roughnecks. A lot has happened in the last couple of days in signings, including Jay Sternberger, ex-Texas A&M tight end, is coming back to the Birmingham Stallions. Also, the leader, in my opinion, the leader of the St. Louis defense from last year, the last 2 years, Mike Rose. If Mike was a little bit bigger, he'd be in the NFL right now. He's a fantastic player, and St. Louis really missed him last year when he went out injured.
And I think that's what probably cost him an invite to the NFL was that he went through a stretch of the season last year. He couldn't stay healthy. So he lost a lot of camera time.
Man, he's a ball hawk. He's always in position. That really affected St. Louis's chances. Between that and AJ's ankle last year, that was kind of the icing on top that did St. Louis in the playoffs. Also, news today, SEC guy, of course, Eduardo Blankenship, ex-Georgia kicker, which did a fantastic job. He was originally a walk-on at Georgia, got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, got a little shaky on a couple of kicks, ended up getting cut. I've been following him on Instagram with a lot of his workouts out of Birmingham here recently, and I told him, man, you just keep putting out them videos, you'll get on to the UFL, and in a year or two, you'll be back in the league where you belong. And that happened today. I reached out to him and congratulated him, hoping we can get him on the show pretty soon. I know Taylor Rusiano, the ex-St. Louis Battlehawk kicker and Arlington Renegades kicker, was also lobbying Anthony Beck on X yesterday about bringing him back. So I imagine Taylor will get him a spot as well with a team. But, man, Rodrigo, he's got the big glasses. He's a unique character. I'm wishing for him the best. And I'm telling you what, St. Louis has got him a good kicker. What else is going on? There's going to be, again, a lot of signings going on in the next couple of weeks now that the NFL season is winding down. I know that there's been 2 or 3 players from quite a few teams, including Birmingham, that has signed future contracts with an NFL team. So they are kind of being reserved to where they probably won't be with the UFL this year, including Martinez, the ex-UFL MVP, will not be back with Birmingham this year unless there's some deal being cut between the UFL and NFL on their reserve list. And I think each NFL team can do 10 per list. And there's quite a few UFL guys that are on that list. Other than that, expect for a lot of UFL news to be heating up pretty soon. We've got a pretty good idea. There's 2 different locations that we're looking at for the championship game. The word on the street is Seattle is back next year. Well, at one time they were lobbying or thinking about possibly putting a championship game in Seattle. Don't think that's going to happen. It's either going to be Canton, Ohio, or Birmingham, Alabama. And unless something has changed, things are real fluid. We should find out by probably week 3 or 4 of the season. Other than that, keep up with the upcoming news. With the bottom line, we're sharing all the transactions each day and some behind-the-scenes stories. Destroying also did finally appear on SportsCenter today. He did not appear last week because of the issue with New Orleans and that the game got postponed. But he was on today. We shared the full clip and a partial clip from the league today, so y'all check that out. Other than that, that's about all I got for the UFL currently.
So as you can tell on the comment line, it just shows that our crew here at the bottom line is about as neutral and as can be about talking about these games, because you got Lauren, you got Mike, you got Russell that are all touting the Super Bowl. And the only thing that Lauren doesn't understand about me is it says you wouldn't hesitate to throw it my way if the tables were turned. No, I mean, we were involved in a messenger chat last week, Lauren, and you know well as I do that this kid here was trying to be as impartial as possible to talk about that game, whereas you had a guy on your side that was nothing but a homer that didn't want to say anything that would have made his Detroit Lions look bad at all. The number I don't know, something he's related to some Mike, and his last name may have been Palco. I'm not sure, but either one.
It rhymes with the quarterback and the replacements, Falco.
Falco and Palco.
Yeah, so I mean, you put the 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. Okay. So
let's not kick Ed while he's down. We're still talking UFL. I got one more thing to mention because we always share to the Memphis Showboat, the yacht club that Bill Alexander runs. I know some of the fans there in Memphis are a little upset they did not get a night game this year. Well, fellas, your stadium's under construction, and we didn't even think about it, but they are replacing all the light stanchions there at the Liberty Bowl with the new LED lights, and that's going to look fantastic there. But in the meantime, the league wasn't sure that they were going to be in place for the spring season, so of course they decided correctly to have day games there. So that's what I'm hearing is the cause of that, and it makes perfect sense because that would have made the league look fantastic to have a night game there and there be no lights and the game have to be moved to a different location. So
Bill Alexander needs to know that yours truly and Mama Bear, we have already made our hotel reservations for the weekend that St. Louis travels to Memphis, which is Mother's Day weekend. We are already got our reservations made. We're planning a night on Beale Street. It's going to be a weekend to remember. So, Bill, I'm looking for you to make the tailgate worth our while.
He's going to be strutting in Memphis, not walking in Memphis, but strutting in Memphis.
Very similar to the second week of the season when Chad and I are headed down to St. Louis for the Battlehawks game. Let's make sure the tailgate's a little wild for that too, Chad.
I'll be watching my Geelong Cats.
Hey, I need to kidnap him and bring him down to Birmingham and put him in the shirtless section. That's what I need to do.
Oh yeah, he's big into that.
We can have ink all over the bottom line, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric. You're
I got plenty of canvas down here for it.
Lock the women up.
San Antonio Brahmas that second week. Oh yeah, Chad's gonna have to come down with you.
That's gonna be a heck of a game.
Don't be hurtful.
Yeah, Russell's looking forward to
seeing me
Chad in the shirtless section.
Yeah, no, Russell, you're exactly right. I 100% agree with you.
If you've seen some of the guys that participated in said shirtless section, I was looking at a couple. I'm like, you know what? I'm not in that bad a shape.
Russell, I have what I call a muscle dome. Six packs or nothing. Six packs. What is that? That's weak. That's weak sauce. You put a 6-pack of beer down on the ground and you drop a 10-pound sledgehammer. What's going to happen? Gets crushed, goes sprays everywhere. You take that 10-pound sledgehammer, you drop it on top of the Superdome in New Orleans. What's going to happen? It's going to hit that thing and slide right off. The muscle dome is far superior to a 6-pack.
Well, just remember.
I call it a mini keg.
As Lauren talks about going to all the games, the only one he's going to travel to is a championship game. Since they haven't officially announced where it's going to be, hold out your hopes that it's going to be in St. Louis again, because if it is, I got a place for you that's probably pretty cheap, Lauren.
No, not after him talking trash to you. That Airbnb or whatever, that's going to be doubled, and you're going to have Nick Saban to show them around. That Airbnb.
That just goes to show more and more about my impartiality.
Lauren, it's a deep basement in his house that's all concrete with just a stainless steel table in the middle of the room with a drain underneath of it, and it's got a whole bunch of tie downs to it, and then there's an intricate, weird, bizarre tools hanging on the walls around it. So you go and stay in that room if you want, but
I feel like he's watched Sicario too many times, and somebody get waterboarded down in that basement.
I have a nice bar that has urinals all along the front, in front of the stools. So when you sit down to have your beer, you never have to get up. Urinals right in front of you. Got her made.
Solid setup. I have stayed in the Eduardo Hilton, and it's pretty solid.
Pretty solid.
I guarantee it's clean.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, let's talk about the college football playoffs. We got
we're diving right into the games, right?
We got the first of 2 games happening tomorrow night. You got number 7 Notre Dame going to number 6 Penn State. And I thought it was kind of funny. They had the coaches interview today, and the Penn State head coach sitting side by side with the Notre Dame coach makes the comment right out of the get-go that they need to make the college football playoffs an equal playing field. And if you don't belong to a conference, you shouldn't get in. But then he looks over and he says, "No offense, I'm not talking about you."
And then he compliments his hairline. It's like, let's kick him in the nuts and then let's build him back up.
Wow.
Nice. Let's get the billboard material going right out of the gate, baby.
He's not wrong.
Now, wait a second. They played 5 ACC teams.
We can't be talking negatively about Notre Dame. If any of us does that, that's Eric. Eric's already got his fan.
Eric is so angry with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I am absolutely not a Notre Dame hater at all.
Oh, that's not what you just
you look at this matchup. Notre Dame and Penn State, what's their, what do they say? They both have good defenses and so-so offenses. So what's going to give? What's going to give in this game?
If I had to when I look at this game, I agree with the defensive part of it. The reason that for me, Notre Dame, I'm going to give the edge. Listen, I'm going out on a limb, unsolicited. I'm taking Notre Dame in this game because
that's going out on a limb.
Yeah, number 7 against number 6.
They're
a non-affiliated conference team like Notre Dame should never beat a Big Ten powerhouse like Penn State. So clearly, I don't care what Vegas says, Notre Dame should be the underdog here. Notre Dame didn't play anybody, right? So
that's what you've been saying all year.
So the reason that I think Notre Dame is going to win this game is offensively. You know, I looked at the performance that their quarterback put on display in the past game. That kid's got some guts. That kid's got some guts, and I think those guys are going to play for him. And I give the edge. I give the edge Notre Dame offensively. I think the defenses are good. It is what it is. But I think Notre Dame's going to give Penn State everything and more than they can handle.
The question
yeah,
is,
they do, Russell.
Where had this offensive revolution at Penn State? Where was this the whole other 10 games this year? I mean, where did this come?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, name me a big game that Penn State played in the regular season that they won or even looked that good in.
And all of a sudden they explode the last 4 games and actually show an offense. I was like, what is going on here?
Well, they've got a tight end that nobody can do anything with, and I would force feed him that ball religiously. And they've got an accurate quarterback as well. I think this is going to be, and again, what do we know? I think it's going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be edge of your seat, 3-point field goal at the end to win the game. But who knows? It might end up being another blowout. This seems like a very, very evenly matched game. I know Notre Dame's running back is a full go. From what James Franklin said, their star pass rusher, Abdul, I think Carter, probably mispronouncing that. He's going to be a go. They say it's going to be a game time decision. He's probably at 70 or 80%. So I imagine he will just be in on 3rd and long. But for the most part, both teams are going to be healthy. And again, Vegas has got the line at 2. I would be really surprised if someone runs away with that one tomorrow night.
Well, Brett, you would know more than anybody. I felt like, and I agree with Russell's comment Ed had up there earlier, I really felt like Notre Dame. I know I realized Beck was out for Georgia, and that's fine.
Right.
But I felt like Notre Dame controlled both lines of scrimmage against Georgia.
I think they won the battle of the line of scrimmage. I do. It definitely did not help Georgia, obviously, having a true freshman in there. And Beck, he can sling it around, but still, games are won at the line of scrimmage. We saw Sunday night with Detroit and Minnesota. You can sling it around 50 times a game, but you better win the line of scrimmage. And Notre Dame did edge out Georgia on the line of scrimmage and deserved the victory.
100%. So, I mean, Ed, what's your take on this matchup tomorrow night?
Well, I'm taking Notre Dame to win the game. But you know as well as I do that if somehow Penn State's able to pull this game out, and I'm going out on a limb on the next game and saying Ohio State's going to win pretty handily, you're going to see a Big Ten touting like you've never seen before. If the first ever college football 12-team playoff ends up with 2 Big Ten teams in the championship game, but no, I'm looking for Notre Dame to be standing when this game's done.
I mean, the most impressive thing to me in the Georgia game was I think Notre Dame rushed for 150 yards, 150 plus yards. I mean, and Brett, you would probably know this answer over anybody else. When was the last time in a big game like that, playoff game, whatever, Georgia gave up 150 yards on the ground?
It was Alabama 3 or 4 years ago, but
right.
And I'm not knocking Georgia. I'm pro Notre Dame here. But, one thing I mentioned at the beginning of the season, this is not the same Georgia team that we were accustomed to. I spotted that almost immediately on both lines of scrimmage, which Kirby, coached under Saban and Baton Rouge and Miami and in Tuscaloosa. He's probably under him a dozen years easy. I mean, he's as close to Nick Saban 2.0 as you're going to get. And I spotted, they still had a pass rush on the edge, but in the middle, that was not the Georgia team that we've seen the last, half a dozen years. But give Notre Dame the credit. I mean, look, they won the line of scrimmage against a big boy SEC team, plain and simple. I'm thinking Notre Dame on the last second field goal. I'm thinking, and it might be a little more high scoring than what people think. 27-24. I don't know what the over and under is.
Well, and Chad, here's the deal. You know, you've mentioned this several times that, and I think we would agree that in order to get here, Penn State, you know, you could say arguably had the easiest road to get here. SMU, Boise State. Okay. Do you see Penn State, you know, they put up 31 against Boise State, and then what did they put up against SMU? 38. Do you anticipate Penn State being able to stay on a roll against what I would think would be a far more formidable Notre Dame defense?
What I would say is that that Penn State should have smacked around SMU, and that's what they did. Penn State should have smacked around Boise State, and that's exactly what they did. They didn't falter. They didn't waver. They pummeled them into the ground, and they won.
They look good.
Yeah. So they were superior against inferior opponents. They didn't play down to them. They didn't pull in Iowa and, you know, play down to some terrible team and then barely pull out a win. You know, they didn't do any garbage like that. You know, the coach actually stepped up and got them to play and got them to beat them. You know, unlike having said all that, I'm taking the Irish.
But if you look at it this year, the big difference, you know, especially with the college football playoffs, the way it is, you're looking for Penn State. If they make the championship game, for all intents and purposes, they played an NFL season. They will have played 17 games if they make the championship game.
Wow.
And, you know, so if you want to talk about making college football players more NFL ready, you're looking at a whole class of teams this year that's made the playoffs especially that are going to be well aware of what an NFL season all entails now.
Yeah, and you guys want them to expand the playoffs, put in more games.
Heck yeah,
you expand it anymore, you're going to be playing into March or April.
More football. I like the idea. So I'm assuming
20 games.
It's another 2 or 4 teams. That's all we want.
I have it written down correctly. I believe that it was a clean sweep here.
Yeah.
So
you know,
we're all
that in and of itself almost made me go Penn State. I was like, oh shit. We're all
Brett went with Notre Dame. I might need to reconsider this.
I mean, if we do,
then I was like, if I go Penn State, John David's coming for me.
If you guys would notice on the bottom line ticker, you will find that I have pulled one game away from the top spot as I went undefeated again, and Brett pulled the old Ofer this weekend. So, I mean,
Eric, I'm pulling you for you just so he has to ship that dog to you.
And you know what? He will ship that dog.
The only thing I would say, Eric, is when I went undefeated, my week was 13-0. When you went undefeated, you went 2-0. Good job, guy.
No. If you recall last week, I was a solid 10-0, 2-0 this week, which makes it a streak of 12.
So as I mentioned last week about Texas being a top 5, top 10 team that just seems to be so undisciplined, is it just me, or do you guys see the potential here of Ohio State boat racing Texas?
Yeah, if Texas doesn't play Arch and bench
they're
Quinn,
in trouble.
They're in trouble. Quinn needs to find himself on the bench. that guy is playing them out of games and then coming back. I mean, he played great in that overtime, did a great job, but man, he played like dog do the rest of the game and got him into that position.
I hate to revert back to my Alabama roots, but if Stark was to do this, if Ewers plays, hey, look, Ewers is going to start, whether we like it or not, whether we think he should start, Ewers is going to start. All right, but I remember a national championship a few years ago, and they still play the highlight religiously. Thank goodness it went my team's way, where Jalen Hurts could not do nothing. Bama could not do nothing against Georgia. And I think he was a sophomore, junior. He'd been starting. And at halftime, Nick Saban puts in a little guy by the name of Tua Tagovailoa, whatever, Lola.
Tagovailoa?
Yeah, Tagovailoa. And he hits a shot heard around the world, in overtime to Devontae Smith. Hey, and Sark was a part of that team, I want to say, as an analyst when Nick did that. And it took some brass ones to do that, and by God, it worked. And you might see Sark pull that out of his bag. And if they're a quarter in, they're down 10-0, and Ewers is just not going anywhere. I mean, it's basically a national championship game. I mean, look, these are by far the two most talented rosters from top to bottom.
Do you agree with what Russell says here? If you
No,
don't use Archie's leaving.
From what I've heard, Oregon has already contacted Ewers.
Ewers is gone at the end of the year.
Yeah. Ewers is going to go to Oregon. He can't go to the NFL because his stock is in the toilet.
Right.
And Oregon's already contacted him. He's going to go to Oregon.
Look, there's a dozen teams that I guarantee you have reached out to Ewers' agent or whatever you want to call them, and offered, I'm sure, a couple million a year just for his senior year. And Chad is right. I know Oregon was one of the hot names, which if they want him, the Nike guy, they will get him.
Well, Oregon's not getting the South Dakota Jackrabbit. That's for sure.
No, God.
The Fighting Jackrabbits.
He's going to be a Hawkeye.
Yeah, keep going. But so what you said, Brent, was this. You said Texas and Ohio State are two of the most talented teams.
Without question. Those are loaded.
Okay. If Texas, who of the Final Four teams, if Texas was playing them, would you have Texas favored over Notre Dame?
The way Texas is playing right now, no. I believe it or not, I would not.
And I would agree with you. I would take Notre Dame in that game. Would you have Texas favored over Penn State?
Man, I really consider Notre Dame and Penn State are two totally different rosters, but I feel like they're a toss-up. No, I'm going to tell you, Texas, they should have lost Arizona State, and I didn't have a dog in the fight, but I'm sorry, they should have lost Arizona State. When you 4th and 13, and if you don't convert, you lose. And then I don't even want to get into the targeting nonsense. I mean, Texas is very fortunate. Hell, they struggled at home with Clemson. Clemson gave them all they wanted in Austin. I don't know what their issue is. I think Ed's hit on a lot of it. Just because you're loaded with talent don't mean you're gelling. And I think part of it is the quarterback play, but I feel like it's so tough when you've played Ewers for 2 straight years, and then poor Arch. And I know he's getting paid big money. I know he's supposed to be the next coming, but you just gonna throw him in at halftime of Ohio State and say, "Go get him, boy." I mean, that really ain't fair, Well, I mean,
do you think Sarkisian has the Webos to actually do that, pull that trigger?
Yeah,
I don't know if he does, because he didn't do it in the last game.
No, you're right on that. You're right.
I don't know if he's
Stark has got something hanging over his head that Nick Saban doesn't. When you've got baggage and skeletons in your closet like Sark, he's probably a little more worried about what people would think of him on drastic decisions because of it's been highly publicized the issues he had at USC and previously. I would still say that he would, and if it comes down to that, I hope he does. And they go down on their shield. You can't have old boy sitting on the sideline. He's supposed to be the next coming, and you take this team all this way against what most people feel is the heavy favorite right now, and at least not play Art.
So Ed, I'll pose this question to you. Here's what I think is wrong with Texas, and I want you to tell me if you think it's correct. I believe that Texas has a quarterback problem. I think that we have not seen the best Texas because I believe, again, just my opinion, that you have potentially players on the team that are maybe Ewers backers, but I also think you have players on the team that are potentially Arch Manning backers.
Yeah.
And I think, this is my opinion, and I'm going to ask you what you think about it, that has potentially held Texas back from being the team that, like we believe on paper, is one of the best teams of these Final Four. I think that's a potential problem that has maybe hindered Texas. What say you?
Well, I think you've got a player-coach problem because I think the players, especially the wide receiving core and, starting offense, they're going to practice every day. They know what quarterback is more talented. They know what quarterback greases the wheel and does the better job to, move the football. And I think it's become an allegiance thing. And I don't want to say that they don't perform consistently for one quarterback versus another quarterback, but I think it affects their attitude as far as the coaching staff goes. And maybe their head's not all in it when they're out on the field because they're more frustrated with the coaching staff than they are actually worrying about the defense that they're running their routes against, their blocking assignments against. I think that there's become a division amongst the team over what makes their team more well-oiled. And I think it's finally starting to come to a head.
Texas just reminds me of a lot of talented individuals is what Texas reminds me of. Like this dude's talented. This dude, first round, this guy, he runs this. But they just don't seem like they play like a team. They're lacking on the field leadership, which is something you do not lack with Ohio State.
And ultimately, that game, Texas should not be in the playoffs anymore. You explained to me how on a 4th and 12 or a 4th and 13 or whatever it was, how you can have a player run just a go route straight down the field and get 5 yards open in the end zone. How does that happen? I mean,
total busted coverage.
Total busted coverage on
the safety was caught in quicksand.
Yeah, he's kind of looking at the quarterback.
Yep, that's exactly how it happened. So, I mean, I think the real danger for Texas here is not even necessarily Ewers or Manning. I don't think that's the real danger here. I think the real danger for Texas here is Howard is playing out of his mind. He is. He is playing out of his mind. I see no reason why that doesn't continue.
And Ohio State's got a couple of receivers nobody can cover.
Continue.
Yeah.
So better late than never, right, Brett? We got Bill Alexander weighing in here.
Hey, bud, we brought you up earlier in Memphis.
Yeah, we brought you up.
How you doing, Bill?
We got hotel reservations and everything made for Mother's Day, so I will be there. I'm expecting a tailgate unlike any other. So I think we should go ahead and make our picks. And when we get done with our picks, we'll take a little short break. And when we come back, we'll get into the NFL. So, Eric, is this going to be another clean sweep? I'm taking Ohio State.
Yeah, I am too. I mean,
What's your
I'd love
score
to find a
prediction,
game here
fellas?
that I can go opposite of you. But
What's the score prediction?
My
This
prediction
is the blowout for
going
the
to be 38-17.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a boat race.
I'm thinking maybe not quite as much. I'm thinking somewhere in the realm of 31-32 to 17-20, somewhere right in there. Again, this could be completely wrong, but I think I agree with Bill. I think we see an Ohio State Notre Dame championship game. And this is the game that I see as one that we're sitting around texting each other saying, ooh, this is real bad for Texas. Could be wrong, but that's my prediction.
I mean, it can end up being 45-38, but I'm worried that it's going to be over third quarter too. Texas has not looked good.
So you're going Ohio State?
I'm going Ohio State 34-24.
Okay. I think at half, Ohio State's handling them. And I think Sarkisian reaches down inside of his pants and says, oh, they're here. He's like, if I don't put Arch in, we got no chance.
No chance.
We're not playing. I think he puts Arch in. I think they come back. They win 34-31.
Wow.
Wow, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Chad, you're down by
the legend of Arch Manning begins in that game.
And the legend of Sark if he does that.
I agree with you, Chad. I think that would be a brilliant move for Sark. First of all, because I think we all agree Ewers is gone.
Yeah.
So at this point, if it looks like an Ohio State blowout, like you got a real potential of getting boat raced. What are you out? If you're Sark, what are you out? So I can see it. I 100% can see it. I just don't know if they're the way Ohio State's playing, the way Howard's playing at that quarterback position.
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I just think the legend of Arch begins in that game.
Texas has got to win the turnover battle. I don't think anybody can disagree with that.
The hype for him 2 years from now coming out, being the number one overall pick in teams, stabbing each other and clawing and fighting over each other, trying to get that pick to get him. It all starts tomorrow. It all starts Friday night.
If it happens like you said, I'll take that finish.
But
that will be a game.
That would be a game, right? Wouldn't that be something?
That would be pure theater right there. If he makes the switch from Ewers to Arch, and Arch somehow mounts a unbelievable comeback and Texas somehow wins that game, I'll take that finish.
But the flip side to that is look at my picks record and how it crumbled in the second half of the season. So
correct.
So let's take a break. Let's take a break, courtesy of the UFL, and we'll be right back.
The best of the best is coming together. There's no more what ifs. We're on one league now.
Ready to set it off. I'm number one in the building.
There's no more talk. Put up or shut up. We'll see who the top dogs is now.
Strap it up and line it up.
Joining forces means more power.
Delirium in D.C.
More potential. More reach.
Unbelievable.
Look for a chance to play ball, man. Chance to show that you still got it.
The hunger is unreal.
Helmet goes on. Nothing else in the world matters.
Tell them I'm ready. Whenever they walk, I'm ready.
A league that pushes the envelope and opens the door to living the dream.
I've been an underdog my whole career.
Football is kind of my last resort. If I could just get this one little break.
Brace the moment, man. This is as fun as it gets right here.
United, they stand to stake a claim to springtime for America's favorite game. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
You know we ready. Yes, sir. Ready to run it back.
Hell yeah, I'm ready.
For a new era.
Let's go.
New challenges.
Best in the nation.
A new beginning.
The time is now.
Line it up, Playboy. Let's do it.
I can't wait to see you guys play.
Are you ready?
This is the United Football League.
Just don't blink.
Let's go!
Cannot wait.
Yes.
Cannot wait. So what are we going to do? Are we going to get right into the games, or do we want to hit the hot topic or two first?
Here's what I think we do. We discussed college football games, kind of I think we got to break it up a little bit. So I think we do maybe a hot topic or two here and kind of discuss a few of the things that are happening around the NFL. Of course, I threw this in there. This is the week where coaches are getting whacked. Okay,
so I'll throw this up quick. We're going to be Eric will have to kind of look out the side window a little bit because this one's not too user friendly. But I just wanted to put up there real quick where the openings are. So here's the list, courtesy of Adam Schefter. Head coaching jobs, we got Raiders, Jets, Jaguars, Bears, Saints, Patriots. GM jobs, we got the Jets and the Titans. So as we talk about these teams, the Patriots have been catching a lot of heat. Been catching a lot of heat from the players as far as, not just Patriot players, but players that are already out of the league or whatnot that are very unhappy with the fact that they gave a new coach only 1 year before they got rid of him. Of course, you can say the same thing about, the Raiders did the same thing. So out of these 6 spots for head coaches, if you're a potential head coach looking for a job, out of these 6, what do you see as being the top 2 destinations?
This is how I would rank them, and I'll let Chad and Brett hammer me on it. But this is how I would rank them in this order, and then I'll explain why. I have the top job as being Chicago. My number 2, and I think these are interchangeable. You could have the Patriots or Jaguars. I don't care which one in the 2 or 3 spot. Then I have Vegas. Then I have the Jets. And then I have the Saints at the end. Now, I'll explain why. I'm not playing the homer role here because nobody is as frustrated with the Bears as obviously the 3 of us, and we've made that more than clear. But I think there's something that Chicago has going for it. One, it's the second largest market in the United States. It's a good market. Okay, it's a big market, and a lot of times it's going to draw coaches to it. Well, you would think it would draw coaches to it anyway, but we always manage to make wrong decisions. But you would think it would draw coaches to it, being in the second largest market, similar to New York and other places. But apparently New York and Chicago are struggling when it comes to their football teams. But they also have, a young, and I would argue a franchise quarterback to work with. There's pieces there to work with. Yes, there's work to do on the offensive line, but I think we have enough draft picks to address that problem, and some work on the defensive line as well. So I think there's definitely pieces in place for the right coach to be there and to be successful with the Bears. Now, that could be a little wishful thinking on my part, but I also think that is actually accurate. Jaguars and Patriots, at least the quarterback position at the Jaguars, and it looks like with Drake May at the Patriots, you also will have a quarterback to work with those 2 teams. I don't think the Jaguars would be a bad job at all. Whether it was all Doug Peterson's fault or not, I guess is irrelevant. He's gone. But I do think that there are pieces to work with in Jacksonville, and I definitely think there are pieces to work with in New England. I mean, it wasn't like New England was just a layover game this year. I mean, they played well in a lot of games, and when Drake May came in at the end of the year, he played pretty well. I think probably, and many could argue, maybe above expectations. So I do think there's pieces to work with in Jacksonville, and I do think there's pieces to work with in New England. And, of course, I do think there's more pressure in New England because, let's face it, they're still living in the Belichick-Brady era. And I think that's probably why Mayo ended up getting the axe like he did. Then when I get to, Vegas, Jets, and Saints, to me, I don't, and maybe you guys can help me out, I don't know what the positive in Vegas is. And as we've talked about earlier, who's the quarterback you're going to get to start building your team around in this draft?
You're not going to.
So Chad and Brett, why don't you weigh in a little bit, and then I'm going to throw a couple twists in there that kind of piggybacks on what Eric was talking about, especially towards the Raiders head coaching job.
Well, before I looked at this list, because of the McCaskies, I had the Bears. I didn't think much of the Bears' chances as far as this list goes. But now that I look at it, Eric's right there at the top because there's so many other dysfunctional problems in this. I mean, the Raiders, evidently, Tom Brady's going to play a major role in picking the head coach. What the hell does he know? I mean,
hey, Chad, let me throw this out there to you. I heard today.
There's a lot of smoke today.
Eric could just not let me say it. He had to jump in.
Oh, I didn't realize that was one of your twists.
That was going to be one of my caveats.
Okay, I'll leave it then.
Don't worry, Chad. I was coming if you wasn't.
Yeah, I'll let Ed. I won't steal Ed's thunder. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, the Jets. I think. I think between the owner's 17-year-old son running the team and Aaron Rodgers' chance of him coming back, I think the Jets are not a very good destination. The Jaguars might be right there because if somebody can come in and salvage Trevor Lawrence, who has a gigantic, obnoxious contract, but you've got to bring in an offensive-minded coach who is going to be able to flip him around quick. I think they're a pretty talented team, so I probably put them behind the Bears. The Saints, what are you going to do? Derek Carr, you're going to roll him out? He has been the most below-average quarterback to keep starting games since Tommy Kramer. I mean, geez, Christmas.
Do you remember at the beginning of the season, he was getting interviewed on ESPN and the like because they were 2-0 and they were on fire.
Yeah, what happened? What a joke. The Patriots are interesting, but from what I'm hearing, that organization is falling apart.
Yeah.
There's no leadership. There's no rudder steering the ship, and the lack of no Bill Belichick is showing. That team is wearing out. They are falling apart. They're like an old car rolling down the road, and just pieces are falling off of it. Now they have Drake May. I think he's going to be really good. I think he has a chance to be a franchise quarterback. But I mean, the defense is in shambles. They don't actually have anybody for him to throw the ball to. They gave all this money to a running back who's going to be done in another year or two. So they have cap issues. I mean, we'll see if they can develop the Polk kid. I mean, he didn't have the wide receiver out of Washington. He didn't have a very good rookie season, but sometimes receivers don't. Sometimes, I mean, look at Jackson Smith and Jigba last year. He didn't do anything, and this year he had a really good year. Right. And then the line's not very good either. I mean, the kid's Drake's a fantastic athlete, and he was making all kinds of things happen. So I would say, to answer Ed's question, I would say Bears 1 and Jaguars 2. and then the rest are just pull them out of the bottom of the fucking latrine bin. Everybody's been crapping in. I mean, they're a mess. And don't get me wrong, people, the Bears are a mess too. We have our own special gigantic mess that we have that I have no faith in them making the correct decision on a head coach. Zero.
By the way.
None.
They're going to hire some obscure offensive coordinator for some obscure NFL team that did absolutely nothing this year. And that he's going to be this amazing. He had an amazing interview and he blew him away. All right, Brett, give me yours.
Let's take this off the screen because I'm about to fall out of the shooting house in the yard. Good Lord. Ed, you could have told me to cut that down. I would have done it. Woo! Ain't nothing like a crick in your neck. Here's the deal. I've got a totally different take. I'm
good. I want to hear it.
If it's an offensive guy like me and Eric and Chad want, I think the Bears are absolutely the destination. We've had some fantastic teams in the past. We've got one hell of a diehard, tough, fan base that has taken lumps upon lumps upon lumps, and they still show up at Soldier Field, and they're still all, online and any podcast, any, page, they're there. That they're so hungry for a winner. We've got a quarterback that is who we thought he was.
He's way tougher than I thought he would be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's tougher than what I thought. Yeah, he's tougher than what I thought, and he's got the arm talent that we all knew. We've got Swift at running back. We've got a solid tight end commit. We got Odunze. We got a couple of years left probably with Keenan Allen. I talked about it at the offensive line, at least a couple offensive linemen, and a big bull and a pass rusher on that defensive line. And our roster, fellas, whether y'all want him in or not, is in good shape for the first time since Urlacher and Briggs and Tommy Harris and Mike Brown and all those guys when we went to our last Super Bowl. As a head coach, if they're going to give him control, that to me is the absolute destination. The Jets are a freaking dumpster fire. They sold their whole franchise on a 40-year-old quarterback that just had his Achilles torn. I've had the same surgery, and you don't heal when you're 40 like you do when you're 20. It was a bad deal. Now, my second team would be the Raiders for one reason, and I know everybody's falling the floor on that one.
No.
They brought Tom Brady in for a reason. Tom Brady's an intelligent cat. He played at the very top of the NFL for how long? 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever it was.
20 years.
If Mark will give him the reins, like a John Lynch or someone like that, and say, here, see what you can do with this, I'd absolutely say the Raiders are number two. They're probably not number two with the roster, although I called it from the get-go. They've got the future Hall of Famer tight end that has broke all kinds of records as a rookie this year. They don't have a quarterback. They've got some holes. New Orleans, I would take number three because that guy's pretty good about just finding the right people and handing it to them and say, here. You got to remember when Peyton won a Super Bowl there, Peyton and New Orleans was in the playoffs, 6, 7, 8 years in a row? They don't have a quarterback right now, but how the franchise is run compared to, what was it, New England, the Jets, and what was the other? There was 6 of them, and I can't remember.
Jacksonville.
Look, Colin's got all the money in the world. I hate a lot of the decisions he's made because he knows he's got all the money in the world, and he lets the son kind of play in there too. I think Tony. But now Jacksonville's got a new stadium that has passed. I've already seen the drawings. They're there. At one time, if Jacksonville did not pass that new renovation, which is going to be fantastic. By the way, he's right there, same location on the river on the bay there. Tony Khan was looking for another destination, so Jacksonville's there.
It's called London.
I wasn't going to even say it, but yeah, London was on the table. But you go back to the Jets and the Patriots, and I'd be shocked if we don't all agree about that. It's amazing how far the Patriots have fallen. But guys, I don't know if it was Belichick or who was running that franchise the last 3 or 4 years that Brady was there. You got to give Brady all the credit in the world. And, when Brady was playing, I couldn't stand him because he was so good. The man did a lot with nothing. I mean, it was him and Gronk and a solid defense, and every year they were the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. But the last 3 or 4 years, what the hell did they have for a roster? It was like they were purposely not trying to get weapons at running back and wide receiver. And, Gronk would miss half the games because he was banged up. I just didn't understand where they were headed. And I think right now the two franchises I would not want no part of if I'm a head coach, and that's the Jets and the Patriots.
So 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was this big hoopla about Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. It was reported today, and I'm sure that's what Eric was going to talk about.
It was.
Is, the Raiders have come out now and said that they want Belichick.
Two teams have supposedly reached out.
So they are trying to talk Belichick into leaving North Carolina before he's even started to take a job in Vegas. So, well, what do you guys think about that? I mean, is it
his buyout
leaves North Carolina holding the bag, doesn't it?
Well, North Carolina knew this was a possibility. They set his buyout, which is by June, $10 million. So if the Raiders pay North Carolina $10 million, then he's theirs.
But after June 1st, it goes down to $1 million, right?
I'm not sure.
Get this, though. If the Raiders are going to pay North Carolina $10 million to be able to talk to Belichick, that would put it up to 5 individuals that they would be paying without even the current team, because you've got Josh Daniels, Antonio Pierce. There's like 4 head coaches now that they're paying with dead money.
What are they, Nebraska?
They had contracts with 4 coaches that they fired that had multi-year deals that they're still making payments to. And now Belichick, to get $10 million to get the rights to talk to him, that'd be 5 dead contracts that they'd be paying money out for.
Well, it's not.
Are they still
it's
paying
not,
Gruden, or did they say Gruden contract was null and void because of the emails? Do we know?
I don't. I think that
Gruden got paid.
He got paid.
I think Gruden got paid.
That was $100 million deal for 10 years.
Now listen, that $10 million is not just to talk to him.
No, that's if he leaves. Yeah.
If he leaves North Carolina, decides right. But here's the deal: if you are Vegas and you decide that Bill Belichick is your guy, I mean, when Bill Belichick or whoever put this in the contract when they went to North Carolina was smart, because they knew that June 1 date is irrelevant. Nobody's waiting until after June to go get Bill Belichick. If they want him, they're going to get him. The $10 million in the grand scheme of things is irrelevant. That's not going to keep Vegas. That's not going to keep anybody from talking to him and trying to lure him back to the NFL. And maybe, just maybe, this turns out to be a brilliant move for Belichick and gets him back in the NFL. I don't know. But that $10 million is not stopping anyone. And it's certainly not going to stop the Raiders. If Brady decides that Belichick is his guy for Vegas, at $10 million is irrelevant.
So as we talked about, we went through all the teams that needed coaches, and you guys were alluding to teams that were sitting good at quarterback and teams that were not. I want to talk about this too. and that's let's talk about J.J. McCarthy's trade stock, because they talked about, again, as we talk about Minnesota's situation with Sam frickin' Darnold and J.J. McCarthy, I will contend again that they franchise tag Sam Darnold on a 1-year deal, gives them another year to push off a decision on which quarterback they ultimately go with. But in the meantime, Mike Greenberg come out with this, and he basically, as they talked about trade stock for J.J. McCarthy, and everybody wanted to say 2 and a 4. Some people said a 3 and a 4. Number one of the destinations was Seattle. But Mike Greenberg makes perfect sense here. If J.J. McCarthy was in this year's NFL draft, he goes in the top 10 for sure, and maybe even the number 1 pick in the draft. So why wouldn't you, as one of the half dozen teams in the NFL that have no quarterback, why would you not be ringing the phone off the hook in Minnesota, offering up your top 10 pick to Minnesota to get the rights to J.J. McCarthy?
Here's why. First of all, Greenberg could be correct. However, I think Minnesota would be, for them, it would be a really bad mistake.
Oh, I say, if that's all that's offered,
we want it done.
Pick, I don't take it.
No. Well, here's my contention. I've never been a McCarthy believer. Okay, he didn't have to throw the ball like he's going to be required in the NFL at Penn State. I guess that doesn't mean he can't be a quarterback in the NFL. I'm just saying he never had to do it at
Michigan.
At Michigan. What this allows Minnesota to do is it allows what Green Bay has been able to do for the last 3 quarterbacks. Favre, Rodgers sits for 3 years, becomes a starter. Rodgers, Love sits for 3 years, becomes a starter. This allows Minnesota to essentially ride Darnold out for as long as he can, gives JJ a chance to sit on the bench, learn the quarterback position, prove that he can throw the ball, 25, 30 times a game, which I'm not sure he probably ever did at Michigan, and prove to them, and just make him better, just to allow him to come along like I wish, the Bears had the luxury of doing at times. I don't think they should get rid of him, because I think now they're in a good position to bring him along and maybe take care of some of the knocks that I may have on him. By letting him go for whoever's number 1 pick in the top 10, whoever that might be, you could potentially, again, get rid of a future good quarterback. And after the Lions game, I know there are some Viking fans out there that now all of a sudden have questions about, oh, man, is Darnold going to be our guy? I mean, I hate when people are on again, off again after one game, but that was a big game for Minnesota, and things didn't go very well. He was 18 of 41. It didn't look good. I mean, just for you, Ed, and being completely impartial, I think Minnesota would be making a mistake letting McCarthy go for a number 1 pick in the top 10, holding on to Sam Darnold, and nobody behind him. Because what happens next year if Sam Darnold starts the year out 1-4, 1-3, and J.J. McCarthy's at wherever?
So what do you think, Chad? Do you think the fact that what I'm talking about with the franchise tag on Darnold, does that make sense in this case, or would you take a top 10 pick?
I think this is selfishly, this is playing out exactly as I hoped it would all along. So Sam Darnold has pretty much convinced everyone that he's fixed. I think the collapse started last week. I think the collapse continues Friday night, and they're still stuck. because he got him 14 wins. So they got to keep him. So they got to pay him. So what do I think they should do? In all seriousness, this is my serious thought. This is my prediction. I think they should, if they can get the Giants are sitting at 3. The Giants aren't going to get Ward. They're not going to get Shador. New York Giants offer the Vikings the 3rd overall pick for J.J. McCarthy. You take it. You take it and you run. Because here's what's going to happen. Sam Darnold is going to be Sam Darnold next year, and you're going to go 3-14, and you're going to have a top 2 or 3 pick next year, and you can get your quarterback. And it probably one that's going to be better than J.J. McCarthy was, because we really don't know what he could do to begin with. That's what I think.
And is McCarthy damaged goods with that knee? Where are we at on that?
Right, that's the thing. I mean, but just for clarification, you said 3-14, Chad. I want to write this down. So, okay, I want to get that down. Just want to make sure. I mean, Brett. I mean, would you take a number 1 pick for him, or are you?
Well, not just a number 1 pick. We're talking top 5 on the outside, a top 10 pick. So. Cleveland and Tennessee need quarterbacks. Patriots do not need a quarterback. Giants need a quarterback. Jacksonville does not need a quarterback. The Raiders. So you're sitting there. It could be 3. It could be 6. It could be 7.
But how many teams are going to wait till next season when the quarterback crop is better? Other than Shador, and there's some teams that's not sold on him. What other quarterbacks are there? So if Minnesota in that class last year that we can agree is probably going to end up being one of the best quarterback classes ever, was so high on McCarthy, and his knee's going to come back at 100%, and they're pretty sure of that. Why not just keep him? Because you're damn sure not going to replace him with a quarterback this year. That there isn't one.
Well,
what you're saying is, wait a second. So Brett's not sure about his knee. Eric is not sure about McCarthy's ability to throw the ball to begin with.
Well, all of us felt that way.
What is spectacular enough that you're going to turn down the number 3 pick, the number 6 pick?
And what's your left tackle status that got hurt early in the year? Is he going to be back next year?
He'll be back next year.
You guys are acting like everybody was clamoring for JJ last year.
No, I'm just saying that the quarterback crop this year is thin. It's as thin as it was good last year. I mean, there's just not much out there.
Teams are desperate. They're talking about your quarterback there from Alabama going 10, 11, 12.
I heard that at the bar today, and I almost fell over on the floor, and I wasn't doing nothing but eating hot wings and drinking Mountain Dew. And I was like, and I told him, I'm not hating on the kid. I love Jalen Milroe. But if someone drafts Jalen Milroe in the first round, y'all can record this, you're getting what you deserve. And that is, you will never be in pro football again. You will finish your professional career pushing buggies at damn Audi, because he is not a first-round pick. He can't throw the damn ball. So if you draft him in the first 3 rounds, you get what you get, baby. That's all I'm saying.
If you take away the hype from Shedeur Sanders, if you take away the hype from Shedeur Sanders, I have seen where people have him graded as a 2nd-round pick. But because the quarterback position is so thin this year, he's probably going to go 1 or 2. Okay.
Tennessee.
My question is Minnesota willing? And I'm going to give this to Ed, because he's the resident. You're the resident Minnesota guy. Here's the question: are you willing? I'm not hoping for this.
Not willing
I'm just
to get
saying.
rid of McCarthy. He said.
Are you willing, in Chad's scenario, are you willing, if, let's say, Minnesota Friday night rides into LA And as we mentioned 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I quote from you, Ed, LA is a team I would not want to play in the first round. They are starting to get healthy. Stafford looks like he's got all his toys back. It could be dangerous for whoever has. And I just thought, man, it is uncanny, poetic, whatever, that, of course, Minnesota gets lined up with LA in the first round. Let me throw the scenario to you then. Minnesota goes to the Rams, and they get beat. And Darnold has a similar outing because I feel like Detroit just gave LA the blueprint on what you need to do to Sam Darnold. They lose. Are you willing as a Minnesota Viking fan to say, well, we did have an enjoyable season. We did have 14 wins. I'm willing to ride with Darnold and whoever the third string
and you
clipboard
lose
holder
40
is.
to 10. 40 to 10.
Well, and I'm willing to ride with just Darnold and whoever the clipboard holder is and trade J.J. McCarthy to whoever will get, if it's the third pick. Would you be willing to do that?
Well, like where Chad's argument doesn't hold water, though, is he talked about, well, I could get a third pick and I could take another quarterback. There is no other quarterback.
There is no other.
You're misquoting me. You take whatever you want at the number 3 pick this year. Next year, with Sam Darnold at quarterback, you go 3-14, and then 2026, you're sitting there with a top 3 pick.
I am now willing at this point to, number one, I'm not giving Darnold a long-term deal. Number two, I'm not willing to just throw this year away and go strictly J.J. McCarthy. So to me, like I've always said, and I'm going to continue to say, you give Sam Darnold the franchise tag that makes your decision gets pushed off another year, that you get a whole nother season to see who pans out between Darnold and McCarthy.
I agree with that.
At the end of next year, you make that decision because ultimately, like you said, Chad, if you have a grease fire and neither one works out, you're still going to have that top 3 pick that you're talking about anyway.
Okay, let's hold on. Everybody is acting like Sam Darnold is going to automatically sign this franchise tag. That's
you don't
not
have a choice.
You don't have a choice in the franchise tag.
You don't have a choice.
You can, yes, you can. You just don't play.
That kid ain't in a position to pull that.
Do you really think a guy that's
the iron is hot? This is his chance to strike it rich.
Well, it damn sure cooled off the other night, and if they lose to the Rams, it's going to get even colder.
Can I finish my point? You're looking to give him a 1-year deal when the Saints, the Raiders, all these teams are lining up to pay him $50 million a year over 4 years, and you're saying, "Well, I'm going to franchise tag you," and he says, "Okay, I'm not playing." They don't have to sign the franchise tag.
Did Kirk Cousins ever do that? He signed how many 1-year deals with the Redskins? And he
doesn't
was there
matter.
every year.
It doesn't matter. That not everybody is the same. You do not have to sign it. You do not have to take that.
Well, if you're Sam Darnold,
he was this close to being out of the league.
Your salary has been $10 million, and now all of a sudden someone throws a franchise tag in front of you, and you're going to make 45 or 40.
Okay,
you're telling me that guy's not going to sign the dotted line for a 1-year deal?
You have a chance. You've been making $10 million, and you have a chance. If you sacrifice it, you sit out and you say, "I'm not signing this." You can trade me or whatever, but I'm not signing this. When there are teams out there willing to give me $50 million a year for the next 4 years.
Chad, you know what? Maybe you're right, but I'm also going to throw this little caveat out there.
Okay.
He gets drafted by the Jets. Dumpster, bust, terrible.
We're going all the way back there.
Yep, he ends up at Carolina. We all know how that goes.
Let me know.
He comes to San Francisco. He's a backup. Learns from Kyle Shanahan. Comes to Minnesota. Has the year that he has. Do you think, really, that it is a smart move for Sam Darnold to say, the Saints. I pick your team that you just mentioned. I don't care. To take that chance, he's going to walk away from even a 1-year franchise tag of $40 million, throwing to Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson, Jones in the backfield. With the past that I've had in the NFL, almost being out of the NFL, almost being declared just a total bust out of USC. Do you take that chance of going to the Saints, signing that contract you're talking about, and falling flat on your face?
Because you take that $45 million deal, $40 million deal, and you bet on yourself with that kind of a wide receiving core, and you do anything at all, he's almost guaranteed a $4-year deal.
He did do anything at all. He just went 14-3, and you are not ready to give him a 4-year, $50 million a year contract. What does he have to do?
Because these other teams don't have to yet.
These other teams who he did not do that for are offering him 4 years at $50 million.
Hey, Chad, let me turn this argument around, because I believe that the only reason that Sam Darnold had the year that he had is because he's surrounded by a bunch of Avengers like Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson. It's not really Sam Darnold. He's just surrounded by a bunch of good players. And if he goes to the Saints, now Sam Darnold has to be the man. And I don't believe he can be the man. He's got a perfect scenario in Minnesota. That's where he needs to stay. Who does that sound like? It sounds like what they've been tagging Brock Purdy with for the last 3 years. So I'm going to use their argument again. I don't know why Sam Darnold he should be in the MVP conversation. He's got Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Jones in the backfield. Until the Detroit game, a solid offensive line and a pretty good defense led by Brian Flores. But yet, Darnold, how is he not in the MVP conversation? All we heard about Brock Purdy with San Francisco was, well, he has all the Avengers, Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle. I mean, I'm not saying that group of 4 in Minnesota is exactly like that group of 4 in San Francisco, but they're pretty damn good. So, I mean, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm looking around the room going, these guys are pretty good. Minnesota just wants to franchise tag me for $40 million. That's not a bad gig. I'd go to the Saints on a 4-year. First of all, if they don't believe Brock Purdy has earned a 4-year, $50 million contract with San Francisco, I can tell you what. Sam Darnold has not earned a $40 $50 million contract.
Why are you sitting here talking like I'm not a Brock Purdy believer?
But I'm using that example.
Don't we got another subject?
Brock Purdy is gonna if he walks, if they let him walk, that's absolutely the stupidest thing any franchise has ever done, because there's gonna be 10 teams lined up to pay him $60 million a year.
And by the way, that $4-year deal that the Saints give Darnold, how much of that's going to be guaranteed?
You guys act like they care that much about winning. He needs to lock up the rest of his life, and if winning comes, winning comes. Most of these guys want their money, and winning is extra and winning is fun. The only time you hear them crying is when they go to get their money, like a la the Green Bay wide receiver went to the Raiders and they couldn't win 3 games a year and they couldn't get him the ball. And then he was crying, I want to win. Well, why did you go there? If you wanted to win, why didn't you go to San Francisco?
Contract's not guaranteed. What good is it? They can say 4-year, $200 million contract. How much is guaranteed?
Well, what if it's all guaranteed?
Hey, we have another hot topic.
I'm just saying. All I'm saying is Sam Darnold does not have to sign a franchise tag. None of the you can put a franchise tag on somebody. You guys are acting like you don't know how the NFL works. You guys know how the NFL works. You're much smarter.
Oh, he can sit out. I get it, but what I'm saying is, why would he?
Ed's acting like they got a gun to his head and saying, "Sign this, mother effer, or you're done." No,
if they franchise tag him, I'm almost willing to sit here and guarantee I'll even put one of my kids up. If they offer him a 1-year franchise tag, he'll sign it in a heartbeat.
I'm not saying he won't, dude. What I'm saying is you're saying it like he has to. And this is what he has to do. And
I feel like he has to.
He doesn't have to do that.
I think he has to, and he should.
Look, Chad is right. He doesn't have to. But
we don't know that.
Compared to where the kid came from, he's not. I mean, I think he will. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think he will sign it because he wasn't far from being totally out of the league. He really wasn't.
Correct.
So anyway, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we are gonna get into the games because we've got 6 of them to get through, and we need to put some time towards that. So all I will say before we go to break is ding, ding, ding. The winner is sign a 1-year franchise tag. We'll be right back. All right. Now that we've had a chance for Chad to cool off a little bit.
Bring the blood pressure down.
I went down and popped a pill.
Hey, Ed, I've got to bring up one more spring football thing and I'll leave it alone. We're forgetting about Pep Hamilton, the ex-head coach and general manager of the 2020 XFL DC Defenders, interviewing, I think it was today or yesterday, for the New England Patriots head coaching job. So shout out to Pep, and again, spring football, full of opportunities. I'm done.
Mike said, let's be real, the NFL's about money.
Starting to get an opportunity, so.
Mike says, let's be real, the NFL's about money. I wouldn't sign Darnold. Well, there you go.
Oh, here we go. Let's.
No, we're done. No more done.
Yeah, we're done.
NFL game number 1 is the Saturday afternoon game. Once again, Houston gets thrown into the Saturday time slot of 3:30, which everybody knows is kind of the time slot for the game that nobody wants to watch. So it's the second year in a row that Houston Texans have been thrown into a 3:30 Saturday time slot. So I can see where the fan base of Houston probably isn't too happy. But right now, LA Chargers are sitting as 3-point favorites with the game that's being played at Houston. So who wants to go first on this game and kind of give us how you see things going?
I think LA is going to dominate this game on the ground. I don't know, whatever happened, CJ Stroud's freshman year compared to his sophomore year, he doesn't have the same magic, whatever you want to call it.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah, sophomore slump, whatever you want to apply to it. Stroud just has not had the same magic he had last year. I think the Chargers, play good defense, handle this game on the ground. 3 points might even be a little light. So I'm on the Charger side here. So
yeah, Jim Harbaugh, who in parentheses should be the Chicago Bears head coach, he has these guys playing fantastic fundamental football. I'm not a big Hey Bear believer, but I think the Chargers are gonna win this game. They're gonna take it to Houston. Yeah, CJ Stroud, the luster's worn off a little bit. I think he'll come back and have a really good year next year. I just think he's trying to adjust to everything. All the hoopla last year, he probably got all the pats on the back over the offseason. It's a learning experience as a young guy. I think he's going to come back and play strong next year. But I'm going with the Chargers.
The Houston wide receiver, keep in mind their leading receiver got his knee blown out a couple weeks ago, I think in Kansas City, by his own teammate back in the end zone. And the boy, give the man credit, he held on to the ball. He held on to it, was holding one knee, and it was a bad deal.
Yeah, that might be a career ender.
Huh? What's that?
That might be a career ender.
And I do recall the man above me before the season started. I give credit when credit's due. Ed called this with Stroud this year. He said, you get tape on you, and you see a lot of guys, if they have a good first season, that they kind of fall apart, or they're just not the same the second season. I don't know quite what it is, but I think the Chargers are going to go in there and manhandle Houston. I think the stands will be empty at the end of three quarters. I got the Chargers big.
I'm really surprised. What was the first thing that Harbaugh did when he come in to LA? He pretty much sold off or let go of all the offensive talent that they had.
Yeah.
And so everybody thought that he was going to play defense, but that he would struggle the first season because they wouldn't be able to put points on the board. And I'm trying to find my notes from what I predicted all the final records to be for the year. But I think if I remember right, I did have the Chargers coming in around that 10-7 mark. So I think you really got to give Coach Harbaugh an A+ for year number one.
Definitely.
I think he's come in and made the Chargers relevant, which just shows you how inept the coaching staff was for the Chargers last year, because with all the talent they had on the offensive side of the ball, they were atrocious.
Yep.
So Harbaugh comes in, gets rid of their offensive talent, and makes them a winning ball club and a playoff participant. So,
do you know, Ed, it also shows something else. How freaking inept the Chicago Bears are.
When I heard
Jim Harbaugh is not the coach in Chicago.
When I heard that Harbaugh wanted to go to Chicago and he was not offered to the Olive Branch to come to Chicago,
they didn't even interview him.
I was floored.
They were too good. They said, no, thank you.
I mean, Harbaugh won at Stanford. He took San Francisco to the Super Bowl. He won a national championship at Michigan. Now look he's a fantastic coach, and they did not interview the guy. And he played in Chicago.
Does Jim Harbaugh not scream Chicago?
Yes. Everything about it.
And instead, who's going to be roaming your sidelines next year? Pete Carroll. You're going to have a Pete Carroll roaming the sidelines next year when you could have had a Jim Harbaugh.
Or Charlie Francisco, who is the offensive coordinator for the whatever obscure UFL offense. They're going to hire him to be the head coach.
Oh, my God.
He would be better than probably who we're going to end up hiring.
Listen, I can't handle this. I'm sorry I brought it up. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's move on.
So I took LA. Is that a clean sweep?
Yeah.
It is a clean sweep, yes.
Okay, next game. We've got Pittsburgh, who's lost 4 in a row, which we can talk about so much more than just this game.
Oh, boy.
And we can talk about the fact that, as great as a coach is, he is, and as good as a person he is, as a humanitarian, fill in the blank. Isn't it time? I think it's time for Pittsburgh to move on. And they're also saying that he's been rumored to also be a serious candidate in Chicago.
Yeah, I would take that.
I would take that.
I would.
Most of them. I still want John Gruden, but I'd take him.
Yeah, here's what I see. If Mike Tomlin stays, here's my prediction. If Mike Tomlin stays in Pittsburgh, I think, for all intents and purposes, Aaron Rodgers' tenure in New York is over. I predict that if Aaron Rodgers does not decide to retire from the NFL and he wants to run it back again, my prediction here, live on the bottom line, is that your quarterback for the 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers next year is none other than Aaron Rodgers.
That's a bold move, Cotton.
Yeah.
If he decides not to retire and Tomlin stays, it's Aaron Rodgers. If any of those factors, then I'm out. But if Tomlin stays and Aaron Rodgers does not retire, that is your quarterback.
So you're telling me that Aaron Rodgers will have a nice rapport with Pickens? We'll see how that goes.
And Mike Tomlin?
I'm just saying. You heard it
Tomlin
here first.
Tomlin ain't gonna take no shit from nobody. And
Aaron's
got a alligator mouth, to say the least. I don't know.
You heard it here first, fellas. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm taking Baltimore.
Tomlin will pretty much tell the Steelers,
if that's
look.
what happens, I will tip my hat to you on this show.
Yeah. But
unlike what you guys have done with my bold predictions at the beginning of the season, but you guys aren't man enough to
you got Arizona at 9 and 10 wins.
So if you're Devontae Adams and you follow Derek Carr to the Raiders, and they get to play one season, and then Derek Carr bolts, leaves them high and dry. Then the following year, Aaron Rodgers, who he used to play for and loved, talks Jets into bringing Devontae Adams to New York, and then the next year he bolts, leaving Adams high and dry again in New York.
No, leaving Adams in Pittsburgh. Come to Pittsburgh with me. I'm a package deal.
Don't go to New Orleans.
I got to think that eventually Adams is going to be feeling a little used and abused, when you say.
But here, I will tell you, at
He's
least
got a
at the end
Taco Bell in his living room. He's all
right. That's pretty awesome, by the way. However, I do think, at the end of the year, at least I did watch some of their last couple games. It's one of the first times this year that I've seen Aaron Rodgers actually looking like he's having fun playing football. And he made, several connections with Devontae Adams in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if Adams ends up if Rodgers decides to stay in the league and goes to Pittsburgh, I said, that Adams follows him. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. You talk about Pickens.
So Adams doesn't have any kind of contract with the Jets. Is he a free agent?
I think
I think he's still under contract, but there's a good chance they cut him because he's going to be getting like $25 or $30 million.
Yeah, real good chance they cut him. So, like I said, you heard it here first.
And the Steelers were desperate trying to trade for a wide receiver all year long.
Yeah.
So we got Marty and Mike both saying Baltimore. Can any one of you three make an argument for Pittsburgh in this game, or do we all agree that it's going to be a Baltimore?
Here's the deal. Here's the argument I can make for Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily believe it, but here's the argument I will make. For whatever reason, when Baltimore and Pittsburgh meet up, I don't know if the Baltimore guys see that Pittsburgh uniform across the field. I don't know what it is. It seems like Pittsburgh always plays Baltimore tough. That's what it seems like. However, the reason that I do not believe this is going to happen on Saturday is Pittsburgh is, if you look at all the teams in the playoffs, can anybody be backing more into the playoffs than Pittsburgh?
No.
Right. And I think Lamar Jackson with Derrick Henry, he's got even more toys this year than he had last year. I just think there's too much of Baltimore in a playoff setting for Pittsburgh to handle. Pittsburgh's defense has showed cracks here in the last 2-3 weeks of the season. So they have not been able to make up for the offense as they were earlier in the season, winning, 19-13 type games. But the only argument I can make is Pittsburgh does play Baltimore tough. I don't see it. I can't pick Pittsburgh in this situation.
The argument I would make would be Russell Wilson's history in big games compared to Lamar Jackson's history in big games. Lamar Jackson's history in big games is a big bucket of poop.
Right. Fair assessment.
And so that's the argument I would make. Am I taking Pittsburgh? I don't know yet. You got to give me another minute. I don't know. I'm not that confident Baltimore's going to win this game.
Has there been an update on Zay Flowers? Because he got hurt last week, didn't he?
I have not seen it.
I haven't seen one. I should have been looking, but I have not seen one.
Can you make a case for Pittsburgh, Brett?
I was thinking about it. I thought, God, this game might be 14, 17 points. I'm like, I wonder what the line is. I look down, the line's 10. I mean, look, Lamar is who we know he is. I think it's made a difference with Derrick Henry as his security blanket. Now, Pittsburgh's going to stack that line. They'll have 8 in the box, and they're going to, it'll take Derrick the third or fourth quarter to wear them down like it usually does. But I think that opens up the play action that much more. And the only hope Pittsburgh's got is that they've got Baltimore's number. But I'm taking Baltimore. It will be an epic. They will probably need to tear everything down in Baltimore and start from scratch if they blow this game at home.
I've been saying since the beginning of the year they need to fire John Harbaugh.
No, here's the deal. Chad, this is why I disagree with that take.
Baltimore's defense ain't what it's been. That's part of their issue.
This is why I disagree with the take.
But they're 12-5, fellas. I mean,
right. I do not believe.
Mike is saying here that they're saying that Flowers is a long shot to play.
So that could even the stakes a little bit. But here's the deal: if Mike knows that Flowers is a long shot to play, so does Vegas. So I guess we'll see if that moves. But here's why I don't agree with you, Chad.
Let me hear it.
I don't think that Harbaugh, he's won a Super Bowl. Harbaugh is not going to shoulder the blame for this loss. Lamar Jackson.
They're not going to get rid of Lamar Jackson.
I'm not saying they're going to get rid of him, but they're not going to get rid of Harbaugh either. The blame for this game will go to Lamar if they lose.
The stat is the stat. The stat is in the Super Bowl era, no quarterback and coach have been together for more than 5 years and won a Super Bowl if they haven't won one in the first 5 years. The stat is the stat. And neither John Harbaugh is not a good enough coach and Lamar Jackson is not a good enough quarterback to overcome that stat. They will never win a Super Bowl together. They can't get rid of Lamar Jackson. It's got to be Harbaugh. It's time to hit the road. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He's a very, very good coach. But the stat is the stat. And I'm going to tell you what, for the picks, I'm working to get Brett to catch up to me. Give me the Steelers.
Eric, what are you taking? We got to move on to the next one.
I already took Baltimore a long time
ago. Oh, you did? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one because I'm really shocked at the next one. Denver's 10-7. They're going into Buffalo. Buffalo's 8.5-point favorites. It's the Sunday noon game. I've never heard more panelists on these sports talk shows talking about Denver having a fighting chance I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing it. I think that Bo Nix is going to go into Buffalo as a rookie and show why he's a rookie. I got Buffalo winning this game pretty handily.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, Josh Allen has played at an MVP level this year. He has shown that he is a different level quarterback by being able to elevate. We all talked about at the beginning of the year, who is he going to throw the ball to? It really hasn't mattered. He has elevated. He has elevated a wide receiving core that we did not believe he could elevate. He has put himself in that conversation of great quarterbacks who can take an average wide receiving core like a Tom Brady used to and elevate them. So, I mean, going to Buffalo, we all know the conditions in Buffalo. Who knows what it's going to be like? I haven't looked at a forecast, but I don't see Denver walking out of there. I'm taking the Bills.
Marty disagrees. Marty's saying Denver.
And I would bet $100 the reason why Marty disagrees is because his brother is a Denver fan. Not so fast, Marty.
Not
Buffalo
so fast.
and Buffalo big. Bills Mafia. What was that old song back in the 80s where I got that feeling Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl? Well, when they made that song, they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but I do think that they handled Denver.
Yeah.
Well, Buffalo suffers from the same issue that Baltimore does. McDermott and Josh Allen have been together for more than 5 years, so they're not going to win the Super Bowl. However, they're going to win this game. Give me the Bills. I agree. I don't think a rookie quarterback goes into Buffalo.
No.
Hey, you know what? If he does, I mean, good for him. But
if you're talking about inclement, I guess you would say. I could see where they say Denver's used to playing in the snow and the cold and the wind and all that. I get all that, but they haven't had those kind of games this year.
No.
And those, Bo Nix, this has been his first year. He hasn't had to win in a blizzard either. So
there's a difference between Denver cold and Buffalo cold.
There's a huge difference.
There's a massive difference.
Denver and Bo Nix was born and raised in Phoenix City, Alabama, and he played at Auburn. Now he transferred over to Oregon for a couple of years, but he ain't seen what he's probably going to see this weekend.
It can snow 12 inches in Denver on Sunday and be 55 degrees on Monday.
Yep.
That's not Buffalo.
No. No.
Okay, so we got a clean sweep for Buffalo. Let's move on. Next game is Green Bay, who is, for all intents and purposes, I think they're really limping into this game. Jordan Love is not at 100% by any means. They lost Watson. One of their fast receivers is out for this game.
He was kind of their deep threat.
He was a deep threat. The only thing that could be the great equalizer is Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is not past concussion protocol yet. So the jury's still out on whether he'll be able to play this game. So I still say the end of the road is coming for Green Bay. I just don't see him going into Philly and winning this game. So I took Philly, but you guys have at it.
Well,
Fly.
got Philly. What about you, Brett?
Well, these are the two fan bases I hate the most.
Way to lead with that.
Yeah.
You know what, Brett? I kind of got to agree with you there.
They are, well, I can't really say what I want to say, but they're different.
We should have kept track of Marty because
he's going underdog.
Marty's going underdog on all these. We may have to go back up through this comment line.
Just keep Marty's stats for next week.
Of Marty and see how Marty does on this.
If he nails it, we'll give him his flowers.
Well, he was going for Green Bay last week, and I was like, you don't go for Green Bay. He said, why? I'm like, I'm a Bears fan, and I have respect for you. I pull for the Cowboys. I said, don't go for Green Bay. He's like, why? I was like, Alabama, Auburn. They don't well, they say like going for your rival is like rooting for your brother to marry your ex-wife. You just don't do it. You just don't. It gives you that cringy feeling,
Right.
Especially in Alabama, if your ex-wife was your sister, then it just man, talk about awkward holidays.
Who you got, Brett?
Philadelphia and big. They've got the best offensive line. They've got a loaded defense. Y'all know I've talked about it before the season. I felt like they were the most talented team in the league. Philadelphia big.
I think with the injury to Watson, and Philly's rested.
What about Love's elbow?
If Hurts can't go, they still have Saquon Barkley in the backfield as a safety net to hand the ball off to. I think Philly is going to be too much. I mean, let's face it, Green Bay is backing into the playoffs. Not quite as bad as Pittsburgh, but they're backing into the playoffs. And again, I suppose, it's NFL, anybody can win. I just think Philadelphia is going to be too much for Green Bay. So give me Philly.
So what does this pertain to, Chad? When Marty says, Chad, you're so wrong for that.
I think my Alabama marrying your sister joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Marty, I 100% agree with you, Marty. I was way out of line on that.
Yeah, well, Eric's wife is his first cousin, so I don't know how much weight you're going to put on that.
Yeah, we're in Iowa, so don't worry about it.
So who did you take, Chad?
He's got Philly. It's clean sweep. Clean sweep. I don't know about on the comment line, but we are definitely a clean sweep here.
Next game.
Philly.
Here comes the big coin flip. We've got the Washington Commanders going into Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's 3-point favorites. It's the Sunday night game. I'm still on a limb on this one, even though I wrote down who I'm taking. I'm not so sure I'm going to stay with that pick. So
I'll start it off. That way y'all can go the opposite way. How the hell is Tampa Bay a 3-point favorite? I understand they're at home, but look, give me the Washington Redskins. The Commanders. I think it'll be a shootout. I think it's going to be a great game between Baker and Daniels.
Chad?
Give me Washington.
I don't know, with Tampa Bay at home, I think Baker Mayfield may just have a game for the ages. I don't know. I haven't made my pick yet, but right away when I first saw it, I thought Washington. But again, you got a rookie quarterback playing his first playoff game on the road in front of a hostile crowd.
Tampa's not all that hostile, and it damn sure ain't Buffalo. 20% of and I'm not being funny, but 20 or 25% of the crowd will be Washington fans, and you mark my word on that.
Well, I think rookie quarterback, who they haven't played that well the last few weeks. He hasn't played that well the last few weeks. Tampa hasn't played spectacular ball either. Give me the Bucks.
I'm going Tampa as well.
Todd Bowles, I think I heard the stat today. Todd Bowles is 4-0 against rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs. I believe I heard that stat today. It's in Tampa Bay. I like Baker's moxie. I believe that Daniels' run ends, a very good run for a first year ends in Tampa Bay, because in the last 4 to 6 weeks of the season, Washington kind of sputtered at times. And I think being at home, Tampa Bay is not going to sputter. I think they're going to keep the pressure on. And unless Daniels has some absolute magic, I think their run ends on Sunday. So I will take Tampa Bay. I got to find it. Oh, this might be the game. This might be the game. Why are you bringing that up again? You're acting like this last game is the
game.
Yeah, you act like this last game's the big one.
When's
For
this
my
game?
sanity, it might be.
Right?
When's this game on?
It must be the night. It must be the Monday night game.
It is the Monday night game.
Minnesota.
The Battle of the Horns. Who's hornier? Whose horns prevail?
Listen, my Danish heritage thinks that Viking does look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about
Finally they did one.
The goat there. I mean, how that looks, but I mean,
that goat kind of makes me think of the Planet of the Apes.
Right?
They've actually, there's a rumor out there that they're considering moving this game to Vegas or to Arizona because of the fires out in Los Angeles. The air quality has come into question for this game. So this could be a true neutral field game.
Well, Ed, does that mean you're taking your Minnesota Vikings? Let's hear it.
No, I does not say that. Does not say that at all. I haven't made up my mind yet.
What?
I have not made up my mind yet.
So for the second game in a row, you're like, I'm just going to hang out here and I haven't made up my mind. I'm going to listen or what? Like, how does that work?
I'll start it off. I picked Ed's Minnesota last Sunday night, and obviously I didn't help matter. So I'm going with the Rams in this one. And maybe it'll push Ed over and get him a W.
So what's your gut telling you, Eric? Do you think Chad? You can. Well, I don't know if it makes any sense to ask Chad because I know what he's going to say, but do you think that Sam Darnold learned anything from this last week's game that's going to make his performance any better this week?
Here's what I think. This is my worry for Minnesota. Detroit, as we said last week before that game last Saturday, that, Detroit's defense, however many they have on IR and all that kind of stuff, my fear for Minnesota is that Detroit, call it luck, call it whatever you want, they gave an absolute blueprint to the Rams on how to beat Minnesota. Now, my question is, did Minnesota learn anything from that Detroit game on how to counteract that? Because what I saw is I didn't see a whole lot of dump-off opportunities for Darnold. What I saw was clear heat coming from Detroit, and I'm seeing 15 to 20-yard routes down the field. I'm seeing Darnold getting sacked, and the receivers haven't even turned their backs yet to look for a pass. Is Minnesota going to learn from that? Is Minnesota going to be able to handle the blitz like 18 for 41? It was ugly. Clearly it was ugly. I, like you, have been going back and forth with this game. This team, the Rams, was my biggest fear for Minnesota. If it was Minnesota and Tampa Bay, give me Minnesota. If it's Minnesota and Green Bay, give me Minnesota. If it's Minnesota and Philly, the Rams to me or Washington or what, the Rams to me were the scariest team to be paired with Minnesota. And then what happened with Detroit makes me even more worried. I really don't know who to pick yet.
So what you're saying is before the game starts, they better be hearing this.
80, what you gonna do today?
I got my A game.
You got your A game?
A game?
He got his A game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Chad, what do you think in this game? This is a tough one. This is like
really. I got the Rams. I think Sam can't stand up to the pressure of a big game in the bright lights, and I think he goes out and throws 3 picks, and the score's 31-10 or something like that, or 40-10, like I said earlier. I think it's an ass whooping, Ed. I think they're gonna take you out behind the woodshed, grab a switch, and just start going at it.
For Ed's sake, I hope with the season that Minnesota had, and I don't think it's fair to just discount it because of the last game, but I also feel like because of the last game, this has really pushed me to say this, but I am. If I was for sure this game was on a neutral field, I may change my mind. But if it is in LA, I'm taking the Rams.
So if this matchup, so let's say last week didn't happen. Let's say they're playing this game, the Red Hot Vikings. Who are you taking?
If last week does not happen, I would take Minnesota. But I'm telling you, Sean McVay is a very good coach. He is going to design things to try to throw Sam Darnold off again. And Ed, for your sake, my hope is that Kevin O'Connell has taken what Detroit taught them last week. And for his sake, I hope that they have done some things to make it better. But Sean McVay is really good in these positions. And as I said last week when I took Detroit, if you look at Stafford to Darnold, Stafford's a better quarterback.
If the coaching staff could do something to not let happen this week what happened last week, then they'd have done that at halftime last week.
That's what worries me, Chad. You're exactly right. That's exactly what worries me. Is I did not in the third quarter of that game when I was texting, well, with you guys, because Ed kind of went radio silent there for a little bit. I'm watching the back shot, and I'm watching Sam Darnold get sacked, and I see nothing but the backs of the receivers' jerseys, and there's no safety net in the middle of the field. I guess I couldn't see if there was a dump off that he missed, but I'm like, what are they doing? Like, it looks like a rookie quarterback that is not reading the pressures. And it looks like a head coach is not understanding the pressures and understanding to get the ball out of his hands quicker. Jefferson on a slant. Jones slipping through the backfield and dumping it over the I mean, it looked like a jailbreak at times, and I didn't see Jones doing anything to try to get behind the linebackers for a dump off in the middle of the field. No defender in the middle of the field, and no Minnesota Viking in the middle of the field either.
Remember
Remember
what I said before last week's game. If the Vikings don't utilize Aaron Jones, they were going to lose.
And when they did, they moved the ball.
Yep.
But when they
didn't.
But
also, though, as you talk about that, Aaron Jones can't stay healthy, man. How many
game at a time?
How many times did he have to take him out of the game because of injury?
Right, but that doesn't mean that the running back that they put in there, I don't know, Akers had a nice run.
Yeah.
Akers can catch the ball.
So here's, I was talking to Eric about this earlier. Gibbs going into that game with Detroit, Gibbs was the guy I feared the most because I think Gibbs is a phenomenal running back. And it come to fruition. He absolutely killed Minnesota. Every time Minnesota blitzed, come up the middle with the blitz, Gibbs curled right around the line, and they threw it to him right in the middle of the field where the linebacker come from. And he was wide open.
How did Detroit do that in Minnesota not?
So in that same scenario, Detroit was blitzing on practically every single play. And Minnesota could do nothing. And it's like, where's the outlet pass? It's like they still tried to throw the ball 30, 40 yards down the field, even on blitzes. There was nothing. It was just maddening to watch this game. So normally, if you guys probably know, normally after I come out of 2 days of deep depression on a loss, I usually have a day where I get over it. And then the next 2 or 3, 4 days, I start slowly building myself up to where I'm all in on Minnesota again by the time the next weekend comes. I can honestly say this time around, I am not seeing the path to victory on this game.
Stop. Put up the Caesar Sam picture. Put it
Because
up.
here's what I wrote down, and I will tell you, I wrote this down on Monday. I wrote this on Monday. I wrote that on Monday.
I can't read it. What's it say?
It says LA Rams. I wrote that on Monday, and I had my correction tape sitting there all week long right next to that pick, waiting to white it out and put Minnesota in there. And I'm sorry to tell you, I can't do it.
Look into Caesar Sam's eyes. Look into his eyes, Ed.
I mean, my problem with Minnesota is this, and Chad, you alluded to it. There was no adjustment in the second half.
I thought at halftime that they would go in and they would figure out a way, because Kevin O'Connell's supposed to be this big offensive guru. I thought that they would come out the second half and start burning Detroit on those blitzes. And nothing changed. Nothing changed.
I honestly, and the reason I didn't do this was because I've been there before. I'm a Bears fan. Trust me, we've been there before. What I wanted to text you, Ed, was this. Ed, you need to get on the phone with Kevin O'Connell right now and have him throw the red challenge flag, because I swear to God, Detroit is playing with 15. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like Detroit was playing with 15 defenders.
And what did I also tell you, though, Eric? When they wanted to show this great defense that Detroit was playing on the wide receivers, and they showed 4 consecutive pass routes that Jefferson ran. What did I tell you? You could clearly see on every break on all 4 patterns.
Oh, that he was getting grabbed. There was a little grab here, a little grab there. And I agreed with you, but I will tell you this. And what did Lauren and Jesse say on Saturday? Who were they most worried about? They were most worried about Addison. Where the hell was he at? Honest to God, I don't blame Jefferson. I don't blame Addison. I don't blame Hawkinson. I feel last week rested solely on the shoulders of O'Connell, because, I mean, they were bringing more guys than Minnesota could block on almost, it seemed like, every play. It probably wasn't, but it seemed like it. So where's the dump off? Where's the curl route to get in behind the linebackers? Where is the quick slant that Darnold could get into an open middle of the field? None of that. I watched sack after sack with receivers' backs turned because they hadn't even gotten into their break yet. I mean, I don't know if O'Connell was just so shell-shocked that he just.
But you also can't take the blame away from Darnold, because when I watched a few shows this week where they actually showed pass patterns, and they actually showed when Sam Darnold dropped back, they showed Addison wide open. They showed Jefferson wide open, and he didn't throw the ball.
Okay, but when you're under duress like that, and I can honestly say for the entire season, I've never seen Sam Darnold under that kind of duress that Detroit put him under. When you're back there running for your life, when you're back there expecting somebody to be in your face every single time you drop back, that does not surprise me.
And just for the record, I'd tell Mike Palco, who's having a brain hemorrhage because somebody is talking bad about Detroit.
Brain hemorrhage.
I have watched, whenever I go to a game in person, there's so much you miss when you go to a game in person, because I'm sure he sits where I sit when I go to a lot of those games. You're in the nosebleed, so you miss out on some of the detail of a game. So I always set it up to record so that when I get home, I can watch it and find out all the things that I didn't see when I was at the game.
Yep.
So Mike can sit here and he can talk about all the, Homer stuff that he talks about when it comes to the Lions. But if you recorded that game and you watch the piece of them showing Justin Jefferson running 4 routes in a row, and they talked about the great defense that they were playing on Jefferson, every single time on all 4 plays they showed, when he went to take his break of his route, you saw his jersey come out to the side whenever he made a cut. So, if you recorded it, go back and watch.
Oh, there was a lot. Detroit did get away with a lot of handling of the. They played a physical game, and they let them play. But you're right on that, Ed. There was, and I'm surprised you didn't bring it up until now, because I spotted it watching the game myself. There was some defensive holding on a lot of those routes that was not called.
So anyway, so I could put up some of Mike's, comments.
Right. Well, and I will say this, Ed, about that game. Another thing that I was disappointed in.
Hey, Breck, I got to put this one up because it's kind of funny. Here's what Mike puts in the comment line. So if we want to talk about a duck, if we want to talk about if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Let's take a quick poll here of the 4 of us.
And keep in mind, 3 of us are not a fan of either team.
Was that a safety in the end zone, or was that not a safety?
Oh, that was a safety. That's a safety all day long and twice on Sunday, except for here in Detroit.
That was a safety. Unless you're a Detroit fan, that was a safety.
That's right. And when I was in the messenger chat and I put that comment in there asking their opinion on whether that was a safety or not, they all started pleading the 5th. None of them would answer it, right?
Yeah.
So,
but Ed, I will say one last thing before we go, because we are running long.
Very long.
Another thing that worried me was Kevin O'Connell kind of turned a little bit into, I think he let Dan Campbell dictate things to him.
Oh my God, yes.
And when he went for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're talking about a Detroit Lions team who leads the league in going for it on 4th down versus a Minnesota Viking team that does not go for it on 4th down. They're the least. They have the lowest percentage of going for it.
Yeah.
I think O'Connell fell into a trap and he let Dan Campbell.
Yep. I perfectly agree, because if you do what Minnesota's done all year, Minnesota has a lead at halftime.
Correct.
Yeah, you take the point. Take the point.
2 field goals, they got the lead at halftime.
Yes, and that can change things. So, I put, and I'm not saying this is correct, but my opinion is I put that loss more on Kevin O'Connell than because I didn't see any adjustments at halftime, like Chad alluded to. and he let Dan Campbell get to him a little bit.
Oh,
he kind of wanted to show the world too that I have a little moxie.
You can go on fourth down.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what?
Also, you got to go for it.
Yeah. I'll see your 4th and 3, and I will match it with a 4th and 5. Like I just felt like that was a big time mistake on O'Connell's
part. You want to whip it out? Get your ruler. I'll whip it out.
Yes.
Yeah. And the Minnesota coach, unfortunately for Ed, came up short.
Yes. Yeah. So I think Kevin O'Connell really had a little bit to do with that.
So I want to once again, I want to thank everybody for listening to our show every week. And I also want to, again, thank the pages for, allowing us to share. Do we from time to time get carried away with sharing and maybe overshare? Maybe so. But as a podcast, I'm pretty proud of where we've come since last year and how we've grown our show. And if we're not putting the quality product out there, we're not going to have the viewers that continue to consistently watch our show week in and week out. So I want to thank everybody again for watching the show.
Woody, thank you. Appreciate that. We do our best. I know we deal with Chad from time to time, but we do our best.
And again, Brett does an outstanding job of posting to all the pages. And we've been able to steadily grow our following. So we encourage all of you out there to, give us a like, follow us.
Give us a follow.
Follow.
Twitter.
Like, subscribe, share, YouTube. It's free.
And so having said all that, thanks again for watching. We will be back again at our normal time on Wednesdays from 8 to 10 Central. We will see you again. Enjoy a weekend of football. See you next Wednesday.
And that's the bottom line.